Good day to you. The next chapter that we're going to look into is industrial relations processes. Now, how do organizations and the trade unions deal with disputes? What are the different elements involved? How do you effectively bring about solutions? So, we will take a look into this chapter which explains in detail what are the different mechanisms and what are the different processes involved when it comes to industrial relations. Now, industrial relation process, it comprises of all the rules, practices and conventions governing interactions between managements and their workforce. It basically sets a platform, what are the rules involved, what are the procedures involved when it comes to the interaction between management and the representatives and the workforce, normally involving collective representation and bargaining, because a wide section of the employees, their interests are involved. So collective bargaining and representation take center stage. What are the objectives? What are the different types of collective disputes? They will identify what are the dispute procedures and the resolution of conflict, the nature and scope of collective bargaining, and negotiation process and strategy. This is what are the objectives of this chapter. Now, industrial conflict and disputes, it does not refer to your traditional demarcation and other inter-union disputes. Now, disputes between workers and employees other than their own, does not deal with disputes which does not relate or is not pertaining to a workplace dispute or pay and other service conditions. And these are not disputes other than those mainly connected with pay and conditions, and these are not concerned with disputes overseas. So in effect, industrial action can be classified into official action, unofficial action, primary action and secondary action. Official action is with the support of the trade unions, wherein you adopt an approach called strike, wherein you refuse to work. That is official. Strike is recognized if it's for a legal purpose. Unofficial action, wherein without the support of the unions, a group of employees resort to activities such as non-cooperation and they cease working. So this takes a form of unofficial action. And primary action is against the party directly involved, say the employees strike work against a particular, the management, the employer who is involved in the issue directly. And secondary action is when a supplier is involved, or for example any third party is involved and the action is taken so as to bring about a solution to the problem, wherein the party behind the cause of the problem is external to the management and the workforce. But these are the four different types of industrial actions which can happen. Now, what is strike action? You can see is the withholding of labor in the course of a dispute with management. There is an existing dispute with management and the workers express their anguish and disappointment, and their effort is to stop their efforts and show the management that this needs consideration and they are pretty serious about a particular dispute. So this is the foremost and a dangerous weapon in the hands of the labor. What are the different forms of primary industrial action? As we mentioned earlier, withdrawal of cooperation. The workforce does not cooperate. When you do not have cooperation from the workforce, your production comes to a halt, your customer service comes to a halt. So what happens is total chaos. And insistence on formal rights. The day-to-day flexibility and the informal existence of what you call the understanding between the management and the employees goes for a toss. Employees start insisting on formal rights, they will not cross their limits. So what happens is you lose the flexibility, resulting in loss of cooperation and production. You work to rule or go slow. Employees deliberately go slow in their work activities, resulting in an overall hit and impact in your production schedule. Ban on overtime, they refuse to work on overtime. Token withdrawal of labor, say for a particular day, wherein they show what can be the effect if it goes on for a number of days or extended period of time. There is a token withdrawal of labor by one particular group or one department. Indefinite strike action, which can really cripple your operations and can send your operation schedule and your productivity in a downward spiral. And picketing, wherein employees from an organization form a line or group outside the premises of the factory or the production units to show their protest. These are the forms of primary industrial action. Now, strikes need to be evaluated in terms of the frequency and the size of strikes and the duration of strikes and what are the real causes of strikes, what really happened. You have to do a root cause analysis, what led to such a scenario and how it can be effectively dealt with to avoid any major situation where it can potentially cripple your operations. Now, to avoid all this, generally employers and the representatives, the trade unions, get into no strike agreements in the form of voluntary agreement between employers and unions, or collective agreements expressly in writing. These are collective agreements signifying the intention of both the parties, identifying the interests and the responsibilities, and it is expressed in writing, and deprives union negotiators of the threat of strike. It no longer gives the representatives of the union a weapon called strike, because you entered into a no strike agreement for a particular period of time with the management or a group of employers. Now, what are the different dispute resolution procedures available? The meeting of union representative and middle management. These procedures differ depending on the size and complexity of the dispute involved, the number of people involved, and the context of the dispute. First is the meeting of union representative and middle management. This can effectively bring a solution in certain kinds of dispute. Meeting of district union officer and senior management, if it's a potentially bigger level issue. The meeting of regional and the national officials of the union and employers association, if it spans across different, entire segments of industry or a particular region, geographic region, you need to have a wider involvement. Conciliation, then you have mediation, and then you have agreement to abide by the decision of an independent arbitrator. These are different forms of your dispute resolution procedures. Now, what are the different approaches when you have to resolve conflict? First is the win-lose, wherein one party gains and another party loses. No, one party imposes their views and their strategies, and the final outcome is that they achieve what they want and the other party stands to lose. Second is the lose-lose. Compromise falls into this particular category, wherein no party gets what they want, but it is a reduced form of the result which they achieved or the benefit that they gun for. So lose-lose is the second type. Win-win is the modern term which is used, because both parties need to achieve something which they want, so arriving at a common ground wherein both parties gain a significant percentage of the results which was targeted, and the goals and measures which were targeted are identified and set. Both the parties strive to achieve this, and giving leeway for the other to score some points. This results in a win-win approach. Now, what does a basic win-win approach constitute about? So let's say, find out why each party needs what they say they want. You need to understand why that particular party, the opponent, is saying, what is the reason behind it, why is he going for such a solution. Find out where the differences dovetail, what are the areas wherein there are significant differences, where you are diverging from the other party, what is that which is causing them to ask for this particular solution. And you need to design more options by encouraging brainstorming, by chunking, that is by identifying and splitting the problem into significant chunks, so that you don't have to deal with the problem in one big piece. You need to break it down into significant pieces so that effective solutions can be brought forth. And devising usable currencies. You need to have currencies. What we mean by currencies is that trade-off. You need to provide certain benefits to the other party so that they'll agree to the proposal that you are putting forth. And there should be utmost cooperation if you need to have win-win approach. Now, why do you need to have strategies to cope with industrial action? Because of the three reasons: to maintain incoming deliveries so that your supply of materials is not hit, your production does not come to a halt; to maintain production output or service levels. Now, you need to have a strategy in place so that your production and your service delivery is not hit by industrial action. To maintain supply of goods and services to the customer. Now, your customer should not be hit just because you have an internal problem, there is a dispute which can cripple your operations. So you need to have effective strategies to handle industrial action, and these are the three areas wherein you have to identify and put in strategies to avoid any potential problems.